Emily had never felt a night like this before. The rain had started early, pattering gently against the windows of her Seattle home, but inside, her heart pounded with a storm all its own. She had left work earlier than usual, hoping the quiet of the house would calm her restless thoughts. Yet the moment she stepped inside, she felt the weight of something she couldn't name pressing down on her chest. Her mother, Linda, moved through the house with her usual calm, but Emily noticed how her eyes seemed sharper, more attentive than ever. It was almost as if Linda could see right through the carefully constructed walls Emily had built around herself. She tried to distract herself with chores, tidying the living room, arranging the cushions just so, but every small task felt hollow. Her phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from David, her boyfriend, each one a reminder of the tension that had been growing between them for weeks. He was charming, funny, and affectionate in the way he always had been, but lately there had been distance in his eyes, pauses in his laughter, and a quiet hesitation in his words that Emily could not ignore. She wondered if she had imagined it, or if perhaps the warmth they had shared was slipping quietly away, unnoticed but inevitable. Linda entered her room to check on her, moving softly so as not to startle her. She perched on the edge of the bed, a gentle presence, and noticed Emily's distracted gaze, the way her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her phone. "Everything okay, Emily?" she asked, her voice gentle but laced with concern. Emily forced a smile, the kind that doesn't quite reach the eyes, and nodded, but her mother could tell that something was off. As she tucked Emily in, she caught a fleeting glance of a message on the screen that Emily quickly hid, her cheeks flushing crimson. There was a hesitation in Emily, a mix of shame and longing, and Linda's intuition told her that this was more than a simple misunderstanding or a bad day at work. It was the tension of a heart caught between desire and fear, the kind that no one else could fix except the person feeling it. Emily lay back against her pillows, staring at the ceiling, trying to sort through the jumble of emotions. She thought about David, the way he smiled when he looked at her, the small kindnesses he had shown, and the subtle changes in his behavior that had left her confused. She remembered the late-night calls, the text messages that had once made her heart race, now feeling like tiny reminders of something she might be losing. Her mind raced with questions. Was he pulling away? Did he still care? Had she done something wrong? And yet beneath the fear there was a spark of hope, a quiet whisper that perhaps, if she faced this carefully, there could still be a chance to fix what was fraying between them. Outside, the rain continued, steady and rhythmic, a soundtrack to her restless thoughts. Linda stayed a little longer, her presence silent but comforting, sensing that Emily needed both space and understanding. When she finally left the room, Emily felt a strange mix of relief and unease. Relief because she was alone with her thoughts. Unease because she could not escape the feeling that her life was shifting in ways she could not yet understand. She reached for her phone again, staring at the blank screen, hoping that a message from David would come and explain the distance she felt, but the silence only deepened the uncertainty. Memories of happier days played in her mind. Coffee dates on crisp fall mornings, laughter echoing through small parks, long walks where the city seemed to fade away, and moments when she felt utterly seen and cherished. Now, each memory was tinged with doubt, and the contrast between what was and what had been made, the ache in her chest sharper. Emily wondered if love was always this complicated, if longing always carried the weight of fear, if a heart could break quietly without anyone noticing. She thought about confiding in her friends, but even the thought felt impossible. This was not a simple problem that advice could fix. It was personal, intimate, something that had to be faced with honesty and courage. As she turned to lie down, pulling the blanket up to her chin, she felt the weight of isolation pressing down, yet also a strange anticipation, as if the night held something important, something she had to confront before the dawn. Her mind drifted back to her mother, Linda, whose careful observations had never been wrong before, and she wondered if her mother already knew the depth of the turmoil she felt, if she could sense the conflict in Emily's heart. That thought brought a small measure of comfort, a reminder that she was not entirely alone in navigating these feelings. Emily closed her eyes, trying to quiet the storm inside, but sleep was slow to come. Each flash of lightning outside seemed to illuminate the questions swirling in her mind. Each rumble of thunder a reminder of the uncertainty she faced. She thought about the possibilities. David stepping closer, stepping away, revealing truths, making mistakes, offering apologies, seeking forgiveness. And each scenario carried its own mix of hope and heartbreak. She realized that she could not control the outcome, that love was not about certainty, but about courage, and she felt a strange mixture of fear and determination. As the night wore on, Emily finally drifted into a light, uneasy sleep, her mind still hovering between fear and hope, her heart aching with the weight of longing and the delicate tension of a love that might yet be saved. Linda, from the doorway, watched for a few more moments, a quiet guardian of secrets and truths yet to be revealed, knowing that Emily's journey through heartache, attraction, and the mystery of the human heart was only just beginning, and that the storm outside was nothing compared to the one quietly brewing within her daughter. The next evening, the tension in the house felt heavier, almost tangible, as Emily tried to focus on mundane tasks, but every movement seemed overshadowed by the thoughts swirling in her mind. Dinner was quiet at first. The rain had eased to a soft drizzle, and the gentle sound against the windows gave the room an intimate, almost reflective atmosphere. Linda, as always, noticed Emily's distracted behavior, the way her fork hovered in the air, the slight tremble in her hands, and the distant look in her eyes, as though she were somewhere far away, tangled in her own worries. Finally, Linda broke the silence, her voice calm but concerned, asking, "Emily, are you really okay? You seem elsewhere." Emily hesitated, her fingers tightening around her glass, a lump forming in her throat. She had kept the growing distance between herself and David to herself, believing that speaking aloud might make it real, might make it unbearable. But looking at her mother's expectant, caring eyes, she felt a small bridge of trust form, a quiet courage that perhaps it was time to share what had been weighing her down. Slowly, she began to speak, choosing her words carefully, describing how she and David had once shared laughter and dreams, but lately things had shifted. The late-night messages that used to make her smile now left her restless and anxious. The way he would pause before replying made her question if he still felt the same way, and even small moments of distance seemed amplified, making her heart ache with uncertainty. As Emily spoke, Linda listened without interruption, only occasionally nodding or squeezing her daughter's hand across the table, her silence a comfort that encouraged honesty. Emily confessed the night she lay awake, staring at her phone, hoping for a message that never came. The confusion of feeling loved and neglected at the same time, and the secret longing to feel fully cherished again. Linda's expression softened, her heart aching for the young woman she had raised to be strong, yet now struggling with the complexities of adult emotions and the fragility of love. She spoke gently, reminding Emily that hearts often feel fragile when emotions are high, and that uncertainty does not mean the end. It often signals the need for clarity, communication, and reflection. Emily realized that for the first time she was articulating feelings that had felt too heavy to carry alone, and a wave of relief washed over her, mixed with the familiar ache of longing for David. They spoke for hours, the conversation flowing like a quiet river, touching on fear, hope, regret, and the desire to be understood. Emily described moments that had made her heart swell. David's small acts of kindness, the way he remembered tiny details about her life, the laughter they had shared in moments of pure connection, and contrasted them with the tension that now lingered, the words unsaid, the subtle distance that had grown between them without either realizing it. Linda offered advice not as a lecture, but as gentle guidance, suggesting that Emily focus not only on the fear of losing someone she loved, but also on the courage to face the situation honestly, to speak her feelings openly, and to listen without judgment to what David had to share. She reminded Emily that love was not about perfection, but about choosing to understand and forgive, to navigate the uncertainties together, and to allow vulnerability without fear. Emily nodded, absorbing each word, feeling a sense of calm settle into her chest amidst the storm of emotions. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to hope that perhaps the tension was not insurmountable, that the distance she felt could be bridged with honesty and care. As the evening drew on, Emily's thoughts drifted back to David, how he had once held her hand on a rainy night, how his laughter could light up a room, how simple moments had felt profound when shared with him. She realized that the longing she felt was not merely about wanting to be with him, but about wanting to feel fully understood, accepted, and loved. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Sometimes the heart sees what the eyes cannot. Trust it carefully. Emily clutched the note her mother had slipped under her door the night before, feeling the soft weight of her mother's care and wisdom, realizing that love often required patience, reflection, and courage to navigate the unseen complexities. Later that night, as Emily prepared for bed, she felt a mixture of nervous anticipation and cautious hope, wondering how David might respond if she shared her heart fully, if he would understand the depth of her feelings, or if the gap between them had grown too wide to cross. She lay down, staring at the ceiling, imagining conversations with David where truth replaced assumptions, honesty replaced fear, and connection replaced distance. Her mind raced with scenarios of reconciliation, clarity, and emotional intimacy, each one both thrilling and terrifying. Emily realized that love was rarely simple, that longing and doubt could exist side by side, and that the heart's desires often demanded bravery. Meanwhile, Linda lingered outside her door, listening softly to the quiet stirrings of Emily's restless sleep, knowing that the guidance and support she had offered had planted seeds of courage in her daughter's heart. The night stretched on, the soft drizzle against the windows, a gentle reminder of life's quiet rhythms, and Emily drifted into a light sleep, dreams filled with memories, hope, and the bittersweet ache of a heart on the cusp of understanding its own desires. In that moment, she felt the power of connection, not just with David, but with the person who had guided her through uncertainty, whose patience and empathy had given her the strength to face the emotional complexities that lay ahead. The tension of the past days had not vanished entirely, but Emily sensed that by speaking honestly, by opening her heart, and by trusting in both herself and those who cared for her, she could navigate the fragile, intricate landscape of love and longing. The night carried a sense of quiet promise, a feeling that the choices she made in the coming days could transform confusion into clarity, distance into intimacy, and uncertainty into a deeper understanding of what it meant to love and be loved in return. The following weekend arrived with a soft golden sunlight that filtered through the trees, and Emily felt a mixture of nerves and anticipation as she prepared to meet David at the small downtown cafe where they had shared some of their happiest memories. Her heart raced as she imagined the conversation ahead. How to speak the truth about her feelings without sounding desperate, how to understand his side without judgment, and how to navigate the complicated mix of longing and uncertainty that had grown between them. She arrived early, choosing a corner table that offered a view of the street, watching the passers-by with a mind only half focused on the world around her. When David arrived, the familiar warmth of his smile made her heart flutter, but she also noticed a flicker of unease in his eyes, mirroring the tension she felt herself. The first few moments were quiet and tentative, as if both were testing the waters, unsure of how to bridge the gap that had quietly grown over the past weeks. Emily took a deep breath, summoning courage she hadn't realized she possessed, and began to speak, choosing words that were honest yet measured, explaining how she had felt distance creeping into their relationship, how the late messages that once made her heart race now made her question what she meant to him, and how she had longed for reassurance without wanting to seem controlling or fearful. David listened intently, his expression a mix of guilt, concern, and understanding, and for the first time in days, Emily felt that the wall between them might finally start to crumble. He spoke after a pause, his voice gentle, explaining the pressures at work, the distractions that had caused him to pull back unintentionally, and the regret he felt for any worry or hurt he had caused. Emily could see the sincerity in his eyes, the quiet desire to make things right, and her own heart responded, softening in ways she had not anticipated. Their conversation flowed, touching on dreams, fears, past misunderstandings, and hopes for the future, each sentence bridging the gap that had grown between them, each pause filled with an unspoken longing to reconnect, to rebuild, and to understand one another more deeply than before. Emily realized that the tension she had felt was not a sign of failure, but a reflection of how much she cared, how much she wanted to feel connected, and how important it was to confront emotions honestly, rather than letting them fester in silence. Just as they began to laugh at a shared memory, a familiar comfort returning, Emily's phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "Listen with your heart, not just your fear." The words made her pause, grounding her, reminding her to focus not on anxiety or imagined doubts, but on the sincerity of the moment, the authenticity of the conversation, and the emotional truth she felt in her chest. Emily met David's gaze again, feeling a warmth that had been buried under weeks of worry, and she realized that love was not about avoiding mistakes or fear, but about being willing to face uncertainty with honesty and courage. For a while, they sat quietly, hands brushing lightly on the table, the soft hum of the cafe fading into the background as they simply existed together, the tension easing, the familiar spark of connection rekindling. Then suddenly, the door to the cafe opened and a figure stepped inside, someone Emily had never met but instantly recognized from David's stories, a former coworker, someone who had once been close to him, smiling with an easy familiarity that immediately made Emily's chest tighten. David's expression changed subtly, a flicker of hesitation crossing his features, and Emily felt a rush of questions and uncertainty flood her mind. The woman greeted David warmly, her laughter ringing like a bell in the quiet cafe. And for a moment, Emily froze, unsure how to react, unsure if this was a casual acquaintance or a complication from the past she had not anticipated. David stood, slightly awkward yet composed, and introduced Emily with careful words that made her feel simultaneously reassured and uneasy. Emily's heart raced as she processed the sudden presence of someone from his past, wondering if the distance she had felt was more than temporary, if the unresolved history between David and this woman could affect the fragile trust they were rebuilding. The conversation that followed was polite, measured, and careful, but Emily could feel the undercurrent of tension, the subtle reminders that relationships are not just shaped by the present, but also by the shadows of the past. Yet, despite the unease, Emily also felt a quiet determination rising within her. She would not let fear dictate her heart. She would not allow insecurity to overshadow the connection she felt with David. Instead, she listened, spoke honestly, and observed, allowing herself to see the complexity of human relationships without judgment, understanding that love often required patience, forgiveness, and the willingness to navigate difficult moments with grace. As the encounter ended and the woman left, Emily and David returned to their table, a new understanding settling between them. There was relief in the air, but also a recognition that trust was a living thing, fragile yet resilient, requiring constant care and attention. Emily realized that the past could not be erased, but it could be acknowledged, and that true connection came not from perfection, but from honesty, commitment, and the courage to face uncomfortable truths together. The afternoon light shifted softly, casting a golden glow over the cafe, and Emily felt her heart lighten as the distance between them, though not gone, had become navigable, a bridge waiting to be crossed with care, understanding, and shared effort. By the time they left the cafe, walking side by side through quiet streets lined with budding spring flowers, Emily felt a renewed sense of hope, the kind that comes from confronting fears, speaking truths, and allowing the heart to lead even when the mind doubts. Her thoughts drifted to her mother's advice again, realizing how much wisdom lay in the simple act of trusting her own feelings while remaining open to understanding the other person. Emily knew the journey ahead would not be without challenges, that moments of doubt and longing would return. but she also felt a quiet confidence that she and David could navigate the complexities of love together, choosing to act with honesty, empathy, and a willingness to rebuild the intimacy that mattered most. That night, as she returned home, the fading sunlight spilling across her bedroom walls, Emily reflected on the afternoon's events, feeling a sense of calm determination, understanding that love was not about avoiding obstacles but facing them with courage, openness, and a willingness to embrace both joy and uncertainty. She lay in bed, the memory of David's eyes, his words, and the rekindled warmth between them lingering in her heart, and she realized that the most meaningful connections often required vulnerability, patience, and the bravery to confront the past while holding hope for the future. Outside, the city lights twinkled softly, reflecting the quiet promise of new beginnings, and Emily closed her eyes with a sense of anticipation, knowing that the next steps in her journey of love would be shaped by courage, honesty, and the quiet strength that comes from trusting the heart. Emily's heart pounded as she watched the woman leave the cafe, her presence lingering in her thoughts like a shadow she couldn't shake. And yet as she turned to David, she saw the determination in his eyes, the sincerity that had always drawn her to him, and something in her chest shifted, a mixture of relief and renewed courage rising within her. They walked in silence for a few blocks, the city streets quiet in the late afternoon, the soft hum of distant traffic blending with the gentle whisper of spring winds, and Emily felt the tension slowly easing as David reached for her hand, fingers intertwining with hers, a silent promise of connection and care. She realized then that love was rarely simple, that it often came with moments of doubt, interruptions from the past, and tests of patience, but it was in facing those challenges together that true intimacy was formed. David spoke softly, explaining that his past had its own stories, friendships and bonds that had shaped him, but that his present and future were with Emily, that the distance she had felt was never a reflection of his feelings for her, but of circumstances and miscommunication that he regretted deeply. Emily listened, letting the words sink in, feeling the familiar warmth in her chest, the spark that had drawn her to him in the first place, and realizing that the ache of longing she had carried for weeks was slowly giving way to clarity, understanding, and hope. They talked about the future, about honesty, about the importance of sharing fears and desires openly, about how to rebuild trust gently without pressure or expectation. And in that conversation, Emily felt something she hadn't felt in days, a quiet sense of peace mingled with anticipation, the thrill of knowing that hearts willing to confront challenges together could find a path forward, even through uncertainty. The shadows of the past still lingered, but Emily understood that acknowledging them rather than fearing them was the key to moving forward, and she felt gratitude for the courage it had taken to meet David, to speak openly, and to listen with patience and care. As they returned to Emily's home, the evening sky painted in soft pink and lavender, she thought about her mother's words, the note she had slipped under her door. Sometimes the heart sees what the eyes cannot. Trust it carefully. Emily realized that those words had been her guide, a reminder to look beyond fear and insecurity, to trust in her own feelings while being open to understanding the truth of someone else's heart. That night, as Emily entered her room, Linda greeted her with a soft smile, a silent acknowledgement of the steps her daughter had taken, the courage she had shown, and the quiet wisdom she had absorbed. Emily felt a wave of gratitude for her mother's patience, empathy, and guidance, understanding that love was not only about the connection between two people, but also about the support, advice, and insight of those who truly cared for her. She lay down on her bed, heart still racing but calmer than it had been in weeks, thinking about David, about the afternoon they had shared, about the delicate balance of vulnerability and courage, and about the way hope could rise even after days of worry and uncertainty. Memories of laughter, small touches, shared dreams, and quiet moments of understanding filled her mind, each one a reminder that love required effort, attention, and willingness to face uncomfortable truths, and yet it also offered the joy, warmth, and fulfillment that made those efforts worthwhile. Emily closed her eyes, feeling the soft rhythm of her own heartbeat, and recognized that the uncertainty of love was not something to fear but to embrace, that the mixture of longing and clarity, doubt and courage, was what made human connection so profound and beautiful. She thought about the journey she had taken, from nights of restless worry through quiet confessions, difficult conversations, and unexpected encounters, to this moment of quiet reflection and anticipation. Emily understood that hearts were resilient, that love was not diminished by challenges, and that each obstacle faced honestly could strengthen the bond between two people, willing to meet vulnerability with honesty and empathy. As sleep approached, she imagined the conversations ahead, the moments of tenderness, and the ongoing process of understanding, forgiveness, and shared growth, feeling a quiet confidence that whatever challenges came next, she and David could navigate them together. Outside, the city lights twinkled softly, reflecting on the wet streets like scattered stars. A reminder that life, like love, was full of light, even amidst uncertainty. Emily felt a sense of completion, yet anticipation, the kind that comes when a chapter closes, but a new one is ready to begin, shaped by choice, courage, and the willingness to act with honesty and care. That night, as she drifted into a calm, dream-filled sleep, Emily held close the understanding that love was not about perfection, about avoiding mistakes, or about erasing the past. It was about showing up, being honest, facing uncertainty with courage, and allowing the heart to guide the way. She realized that the ache of longing she had carried was a sign of her depth of feeling, that the challenges she had faced were opportunities for growth, and that the bond she shared with David, tempered through honesty and vulnerability, could emerge stronger than ever. Linda watched from the doorway, a quiet guardian of her daughter's heart, knowing that Emily had discovered something essential, that love, patience, and courage could turn confusion into clarity, distance into intimacy, and fear into the gentle promise of hope. Emily felt grateful not just for the reconciliation and understanding with David, but for the strength she had found within herself, for the guidance of her mother, and for the quiet lessons learned about trust, empathy, and the delicate balance of human emotions. By the time she finally fell asleep, her heart felt lighter, her mind calm, and her spirit ready to embrace the possibilities of the future, confident that love, when nurtured with care and honesty, could overcome doubt, past complications, and moments of uncertainty, leading to a deeper, more meaningful connection built on understanding, trust, and shared courage. And as the night deepened, the soft glow of the city outside her window mirrored the quiet promise in her heart that though love could be complicated, uncertain, and testing, it was also beautiful, rewarding, and worth every moment of effort, patience, and emotional courage.